So the only way that can stop Mr. Putin, already not sanctions, not statements, not some kind of accusation of him. This is a hardware policy. This is a war. This is a war, once again, not only against Ukraine. This is European war. Yeah. Hardware attack can be stopped by hardware response. It means that military response. Everybody should understand it very clearly. This aggression can be stopped only by defense, by real defense on the part of Europe, of NATO, of the United States. It's common response. Otherwise, this war cannot be stopped.
Thank you very much for that. Tony Brenton, first of all, a reaction to that, Vladimir Putin has no intention of stopping at Ukraine. He wants the Soviet Union back again.
So first, I should say Andrei is an old friend, and it's good to find myself on the same program as him. No, I think that's an exaggeration. Vladimir Putin is certainly after Ukraine. He's obviously become obsessed with that subject over the period of his isolation during COVID and all of that. And he's going to be very difficult to reverse from the course that he's now taken. I don't think he has any very concrete plans to go beyond that, not least because the sort of countries that naturally fall within his gaze at that point, so places like the Baltic countries, are members of NATO. And if he went for them, he would find himself in a war with NATO. NATO spends about 10 times as much as Russia on...
But Tony Brenton, let me just bring you on to the point which your friend is making here, that actually this was very obvious from 2012. And I wonder if you think that the way that NATO conducted the expansion was...
That is certainly right. I think NATO, we the West, to some extent have brought this on ourselves. We never took seriously Russia's security concerns. And this goes back beyond Putin. This goes back to Yeltsin and to Gorbachev, each of whom said expansion of NATO is going to ruin the liberalization of Russia, is simply going to alienate the Siloviki in Russia, which is exactly what's happened. But that's not really the point now. The point now is that Putin has launched an aggressive war. And the only way of stopping him, and Andrei is right about this, there's nobody around him who's going to stop him. There are demonstrations in Russia, but they're not going to stop him either. They're relatively minor demonstrations by comparison with those 10 years ago. The only thing that's going to stop him is military defeat.
So, what will his response be, do you think, to the Blinken proposal to give MiG jets from Poland to Ukraine and then backfill with American jets? Will that just intensify an air war?
Yes, you will see that as escalation. And he's talked about the ultimate end of escalation, which is the use of nuclear weapons. That doesn't solve the problem. I think the point about what's going on now is that actually his war has the smell of failure over it. We, the West, should be doing everything we can to turn it into a failure and to add to the pressure on him to back off. And there's an encouraging sign today that may be beginning to happen. The conditions for peace set out by Peskov today in his phone conversation with Reuters are significantly less than the conditions for peace set out by Putin when all of this started.